Welcome to Inspired Living with Keri Murphy, the podcast, where as your host each and every week, I am going to inspire you and empower you to share your message and step into that big vision you see for yourself. I'll be bringing you celebrity interviews, influencer insights, and my personal tips from decades as an on-camera talent, TV host, media expert, and entrepreneur, so you can build a brilliant seven-figure brand. Because when you're inspired, you inspire others. So let's go. When it comes to social media influencers and experts, it can seem like they are a dime a dozen. But when it comes to people who actually can show up and really support entrepreneurs, there are a few at the top of their game. And when I met Kim Garst a few years ago, I just fell in love with her Southern charm, how she shows up, her commitment to serve, and her knowledge. In fact, Forbes named her one of the top 10 social media power influencers. She is a best-selling author, international speaker, and really one of the top influencers using social media to really share and connect with her followers. In this episode, we talk about so much when it comes to social, when to jump on the next social media train or platform, how to show up with intention, the number one thing you can be doing right now to really stand out and build your list and your following, and the importance of getting people off social media and onto your list. We talk about that and so much more. You know, Kim started out 30 years ago in the digital space before we had any of the assets in social media that we have today. She created her seven-figure business at the dining room table with her two littles at home. But it also took her 5 years to make her first $60. Why she didn't give up, I don't know. But I do know that she is a woman that is so committed to helping entrepreneurs realize their possibility and really use social in a powerful way. We also announced some very exciting news that she will be one of the 5 special speakers that we bring together for Brilliant this year. Brilliant is that one of a kind event that brings brilliant women together from across the globe to learn how to step into their genius, share their message, do something incredibly meaningful, and build a 7 and 8 figure brand doing it. So if that is you and you want to learn more, go to thebrilliantevent.com. And I am beyond excited to have Kim Garst as one of our speakers. Get ready for an incredible, insightful, and intentional interview around social media and so much more. Kim Garst, I have to tell you, I am such a fan, not only because you're brilliant at what you do, but because of the heart in which you show up in this crazy social media space. So thank you so much for being with me today.
I'm so thrilled to be here. When you say the crazy social media space, boy, has this year been a crazy year for social media. I mean, it has been a year. When I say year, meaning 2020, I know we're in 21 now, which is hard to even wrap our heads around. It seemed like as long as it drug by, it also flew by,
It did.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been
And I had a baby, which made it fly by even
know.
quicker. It was the greatest blessing, right? Because it was a little Groundhog's Day, but it also went by really fast. It wasn't that weird though. Some days that
Yes.
felt super slow, and others the year just went by so fast.
I
And
mean, some days it did seem like it was just dragging, like, is this year ever going to be over? And
right,
then it was just gone.
bada bing, bada boom. Here
Yeah.
we are,
Yeah.
2021. The blessing was that for those of us who weren't online, we had a new vehicle to grow and build our business. And yet I know a lot of people are very overwhelmed with social media. And especially in our space where, our clients are over 40, they didn't grow up with a camera in front of their face. There's a lot we want to talk about today. But
Right.
here is what I want to share for the listeners who don't know is that Forbes crowned you like top 10 social media power influencers. Forbes top 10. Now,
Yeah.
that's a hefty crown to wear there, Kim. How did that feel?
Well, when I found out, it was surreal. I kind of, over the years, since I've been doing this, I've been online for almost 30 years. So when I say that, like, everybody's going to know that I'm old. But no, I've been online, owned an online business for almost 30 years. My oldest son is 28. He'll be 29 in April. And when the day he was born really spawned the me digging into how was I going to work from home instead of going back into corporate. And, when social media came along, I got busy trying to figure out how I was going to leverage it to grow my business. And anyway, long story short, every time I make a list of some sort, like, that was a biggie, obviously, that was the first time that I made a list. And it never gets old. It's almost surreal. It's like me, like little old me, like, why am I on this list with all these other amazing people? It's still to this day, it doesn't matter how many lists you make or how many people think that you are
Go-to
influential.
person. Yeah.
The go-to person, it still seems strange to me because I just think of me as me, so.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you know what? I think that that is a beautiful testament to just who you are. And, exactly, I want to just go back to how simple that is. You are you. And I think you being you has been what has infused, the list and, where you are and has propelled you into the space and in a space that can feel, I don't know if the word slimy is accurate or is it disingenuous? I think that I can't tell you how many DMs I get that I can, make you millions or I can grow your profile overnight. And,
Yeah.
and it just gets so old. So Kim, first of all, let's go back first. And I love that you said sitting around the dining room table with your littles, because I call my kids my littles. So I just like, oh my gosh, our littles. Tell us about, I mean, I can only imagine 30 years ago building an online business, how different it was compared to now with the, $1 million assets we literally have at our fingertips. Can you talk about, and you built a 7-figure business at that time.
Yes, yes, from my dining room table. And
Yeah.
the interesting part and the distinction, I think, between then and now is there were no resources then. There was,
Right.
no YouTube. You couldn't watch YouTube videos to figure out how to do something. There were no books. There were no resources. There were no websites. There was literally nothing.
Yeah.
And so it was a
The dark
whole.
ages, the dark
Yes,
internet ages.
that
Yes.
the dark, it was just getting started. The internet was, well, it was just getting commercial,
Yeah.
like in 1991 was just starting to get commercial, and all the educators were screaming and, like they didn't want it to go down the commercial road. But it's a fascinating thing there for, at that point in time versus where we are today, where it's almost information overload today.
Right.
It's hard to figure out who do you pay attention to. There's so much noise out there. Who knows what you need to know that you can tap into, whether it's somebody you are paying for their knowledge and so that you can learn something that you can implement in your business, or even if it's like free content that you're trying to consume, do they really know what they're talking about? Are they
Right.
going to help you? Are you wasting your time? It's a fascinating dynamic, and one that is, I almost feel like I would prefer to find my way like I did in the early days than to have to weed through all the stuff that we have at our fingertips.
It's
Now,
a
that
lot.
said,
Yeah.
if you can figure out, there is amazing things. There is no excuse for people not to have a highly successful business today.
Did you hear that? No
Yes,
excuse.
no excuse.
Yes.
If I can do it without any resources, you just got to figure out who to pay attention to. One or two people, tune in, dig in, figure it out, and then you are on your way. There's really just no excuse to not not to have a successful business.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I started my first business in my 20s, I didn't have a website. I didn't have any of the resources that we do now. And I will say that the number one thing I hear, Kim, from my clients is just it's so noisy, it's so overwhelming. And, I know you and I teach similar things, but in different ways. And, we're all a channel, we're all a broadcast, we're all putting out
Yes,
content. It is overwhelming. But I think
it
that's
is.
why my opinion moving into 2021 is that if you don't clarify your message and get known for that one thing, then no one's going to be able to find you because there's just too much out there. So for that person that feels that overwhelm, that feels that, oh my God, it's just so noisy, what do you say to them?
I think one of the things that is a huge problem for a lot of entrepreneurs today is they're spending a lot of time doing things that aren't generating revenue in their business. If you're spending 80, 90, 100% of your time each and every day in social or on a shiny object or whatever,
Yeah.
give yourself some grace because you're not alone. A lot of other people are doing the same thing, but you have to step back from that and just pick one or two things instead of trying to get being in the state of overwhelm, which is where a lot of us are, because there's so many things today to do.
Yeah.
And you buy into it. You have to do it all, and you don't. You just have to figure out one or two things that works for your business, that's going to generate revenue for you, and focus on that versus trying to do everything.
That is such great advice. I feel like social media also creates kind of this false sense of urgency. Like, I have to post right now this second, and I have to respond to every comment. And so before you know it, the day is gone and you've gone down, the social media rabbit hole, or you've looked at way too many videos, which I teach, right? That is something that happens. But when it comes to choosing those things, Kim, and then complementing and using the asset of social media to support that, can you share with us, like, what are some things that you have done that have really moved the needle for you in your business when it comes to using social media?
Well, I think social media is changing dramatically in the concept of how people are using it and how they're connecting today. In the early days of social media, it was very intimate and there was conversations happening. And then we went to more of a broadcast structure because of scalability. We all bought into, well, let's just, post something and see who, engages with it. We have circled back to what I think is really where it's at, which is the one-on-one conversations,
Yeah.
and leveraging the power of Messenger or Instagram DMs, really connecting and talking with people. And everybody's like, well, that's not scalable. Well, I mean, this is a reality. So, and this is a
How
sad
much
reality.
time do you spend on social media, Kim Garst?
Seriously. So no, but this is a sad reality, and I've been doing a real big push to educate my community around how important it is to build your list, your
Yeah.
email list, and moving your social media community to your list. That was probably one of my biggest mistakes that I made when I was going, getting all the fans and followers. I wasn't intentional with my list building.
Because you don't own that. I mean,
You don't
any of
own
these
it,
platforms can go away tomorrow
and
and you don't
and
have that connection.
or like I have almost 400,000 fans on my Facebook business page. And, I'm lucky because my engagement's pretty decent there, but the average person is getting, 1 to 2% of their fan base actually seeing their content. So if
Yes.
you have 100 fans, 1 or 2 people is seeing your content. Now think about that for a hot second, and then compare it to how much time you're spending on these platforms when the potential is that your content is not even being seen.
That
And
is so true. It's like we
it's
put all
sad.
this effort
Mhm,
into our social, which I think is important, but how
mhm.
are you getting them onto a list where they're going to be much more engaged and
Yes,
see the content,
yes.
right?
You really have to
Yeah.
be intentional with, and it's going to get worse. Like with Facebook, it's got to a place where you almost have to pay to play.
Right.
Because of the algorithm shifts and all of those things. And I don't know if you've heard this or not, but Apple is coming out with
I did hear that.
the new rollout is going to allow people to self-select out of ads on Facebook, which means now we will not be able to pay to play, right? So what is that going to mean to us? It
Yeah, that
means
doesn't
that,
make any sense. Like, if you
right,
want people to pay to play, but then you're not allowing people to see the content, how are businesses going to continue to grow?
Right.
Yeah,
Which, we've been spoiled. That
we
this
have
is
been.
reality. So there's never been, and I'll just say it, no tough love here. There's never been a business ever in the history of ever that hasn't had to market their businesses. But we have bought into the low cost barrier to entry, which has been social media. And it's going to be the answer to all of our prayers, when it comes to marketing, because it's free.
Yeah.
But we are definitely we have to shift our mindset and move people. Social media is a great attraction method, but we have to move those people to our list as quickly as we possibly can. It's so, so important.
So how do we do that, Kim? Because I'm so with you, and I think it can be very overwhelming to people with how do we do that? What type of opt-in, works the best? Do you change it up on a regular basis? Do you create ads to the opt-in? So I would love a little strategy from you
Sure.
on how to
Yes.
get people from social onto our list.
Yes, absolutely. So obviously the best way is with a freebie, a lead magnet. I call it an ethical bribe. It's
Yeah.
an exchange of currency, essentially. You've got something value-based that you're giving to your ideal person for free, and they're giving you something that's valuable to them, which is their email address. And that is probably the best. And then there's also a real shift happening in the social space where I think some people it's not that people love free, obviously. So free works, having that exchange of free versus an email for an email address does work. But with ads in particular, like if you wanted to spend a little bit of money, there is a real interesting dynamic happening with what I call low cost offers. Anything that is less than $50. People have been using those low cost offers and going direct for the ask versus leading off with something free, and those are working. So people are getting to a place where they just want super duper value, and they're willing to pay for that low cost thing as a touch point.
Do you think people perceive the value to be greater if they have to pay something for it?
Yes, absolutely. There is skin in the game at that point.
Hmm.
And the dynamic that is shifting in that space is interesting because you can now build a list of buyers versus a list of freebie seekers.
Oh, that's good. A list of
Yes.
buyers. Yes.
So, if you have something that's low cost that most of us do, most of us have something in our business or that we could craft very quickly that's value based, things that are really working very well are things like templates, video templates, hint, hint, or anything that saves people time and money. I've seen 365 days of ideas, whether they're live streaming ideas or social media post
Mhm.
ideas or whatever. I mean, it could be exercise ideas, whatever, an idea a day. I mean, all of those are doing very well. And in the past, we've thought we had to give away those super value based things for free. When I'm seeing people, and I'm doing it too, by the
Yeah.
way,
We're actually
just
starting to
going
do the
straight from
same.
the ask.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
that's really
yes.
good to hear though, to have that affirmation that that is working, where you don't have to give everything away for free. And because it's such a crowded space, I would feel that perhaps people would see you more as a leader if you do charge something, right? If it's super value based and
Yes.
you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm willing to invest in it." It also says a lot about the person. I want to scooch back just a little bit, Kim, too, because you talked about paying to play. And I mean, I've been
Mhm.
an entrepreneur for over 20 years. I don't know when I didn't have to pay for marketing and advertising. And I do agree that social kind of gave us this like free ride for a while, and it was really great. But I will say this, and I was really scared to invest in Facebook ads. And I know that they constantly change, but we this last year became super visible. We're really consistent with the way that we get our leads, and we show up for them and we serve them. We had the best year we had ever had because we
Yes.
had a plan. We worked the plan. We tested the ads. Then we invested in the ads. And now we're just putting gas on it. And I know that algorithms and everything changes, but I think it's really important that if someone wants to grow a 6, 7, 8 figure business, they have to invest in marketing and
Yes.
advertising. The people aren't just going
Yes.
to find you through your free opt in all the time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I say quite frequently. Like when people go through my list building to profit course, they get so excited because they have their opt-in ready, right? Their freebie, and they put it out on social, and they get very disheartened very quickly because one or two people take them up on it, and they think that they're going to get 50 people to opt in on day one just because they have this new thing that they're just super excited about.
Yeah.
But goes back to what I was saying before, the 1 to 2% of people are seeing your content. So, and let's say that one or two people out of 100, is that the right person for your freebie in
Right.
that
Yeah.
moment, right?
Yeah.
So you can't one and done it. You have to have a consistent strategies to share your freebie. And I think a lot of times people create their freebies and then they hope somebody bumps into it. And then they're like, well, my list isn't growing,
Please find it somewhere.
right, right. I mean, you're to see out there, guys. You have to
Yeah,
stand out. In order to do that, you have to go tell it on the mountain.
that's
You
right.
have to let
Preach.
people know.
Yeah.
Yes, that you are there and you have something value based that people will want. And one of the fastest ways to do that is to leverage the power of paid media. Facebook ads, in particular, Pinterest ads are another great opportunity. And I'll just put another little plug in real quick. When it comes to free organic reach these days, there's really only two social platforms left that give us the opportunity to be found versus having a community of people who consume our content. And
Mm.
that's Pinterest. Pinterest is a search engine. People are actively looking for content. And it doesn't matter how many fans or followers you have on that platform. And YouTube video.
Yes. Video.
70% of people find what they're looking for through search, not because they're following a playlist that you
That's
have.
exactly right.
So,
I always ask
you
people, are
know,
you Googleable? Like if I put, like, can I
yes,
find you? And of course we know the power of video. It goes without being said, but just to say it one more time. I mean, that is the number one thing that you use, Kim, on social to build your
yes.
business, is it not?
Live video in particular.
Right. Right.
And this year we're getting really intentional with our YouTube strategy because and Pinterest, because of what I just shared. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's Pinterest is one of my number one social media traffic drivers. And
Wow.
and again, your person too, Keri, is on Pinterest.
Yeah.
And you think, well, they're there just to figure out how they're gonna decorate their new bedroom,
Or
but
do their
they're
hair. Not
or
that
do
I,
their
yeah.
hair or their nails, which
Hair
I haven't
ideas.
done.
Yes.
Yes, yes. But they're also looking, if they see something that is, that really meets them where they are as it relates to business, they're going to consume that content too.
Sure.
So it absolutely does work. And the reverse of that is true too, by the way. I think lots of times when we think that our perfect person, we look at them in the context of our business, but that person is holistic in the sense that they buy and consume other things from us.
Yes, they
It's
do.
like,
Yeah.
Keri, you have a new makeup line, right? So
Yeah.
it ties to your business, but your person also is buying makeup. They're buying clothing. They're buying, a woman in
Yeah.
particular makes 80% of the buying decisions. So how do you incorporate other things or other opportunities to put in front of your person that's going to meet a need for them? I think that's important for us to at least think about, because there's
Yeah,
revenue
remember,
streams available
yeah,
there.
your ideal client is a holistic person. They shop, they buy other
Mhm.
things. Where are they at and how are you showing up, to meet the
Yeah.
need? That is so valuable. And that brings me to the question of the hour, which is, how do you know, Kim, with all the different platforms that come and go, and I know we have Clubhouse now and TikTok, you got to be there. And, we had Periscope in the past. Like, how do you know when to jump on the train and when to be like, you know what? I cannot jump on the train. Like, I am too busy just trying to keep up with what I
Yeah.
got.
Yeah. So it's so funny you say that, especially in light of Clubhouse, because it is the new shiny object,
Oh, and let
right?
me tell you,
So
it is bright shiny object. Yes.
seriously. And so I was digging in my heels. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm just not. I'm just not even going to download it. I'm not asking anybody to get me on the platform. I'm just not. I'm just going to ignore it. And that worked up until the 23rd of December. And then somebody reached out and said, hey, you need to, I got an invite. And so anyway, long story short, I'm now on the platform.
You're on Clubhouse, right?
And I'm on Clubhouse, and I'm going to have to turn off the notifications. I'm serious. I'm going to have to turn it off because it is so distracting. And I'm seeing a lot of major marketers on this platform all day long. I'm like,
doing nothing else. Yes.
Are you doing anything for your business? So, but to go back to your question, you can embrace new platforms, I think, and there's a big opportunity as an early adopter if you put some boundaries and some strategy around the concept of embracing that platform. So Clubhouse is one of those platforms where I think there is amazing opportunity, especially if you are reluctant to embrace getting in front of the camera.
It's audio based, by the way.
It's audio based. It's an audio app. So it doesn't matter what your hair or your makeup looks like. So that's a positive. But I'm seeing just people spend so much time on the app with no intention, and I don't recommend that. So what I've been doing, I'll just share what I'm doing, is I'm watching and looking and paying attention to what people are doing and what seems to be working. From a strategy perspective, how are you driving traffic to other things? How are you creating sales with it? Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of like in that mode right now. Haven't decided how I'm going to leverage it or if I will, frankly.
Right. So now you're just observing, which I think is really, it's a good thing. And I think that's how we can make the decision, is to observe. And you said a word that I live by, and that is intention. And I think it's important that we go back to all platforms. It's so easy to get sucked down the rabbit hole. And it's like, what is your intention for being on any platform? What is the goal? How are you, like you said, one-on-one connection and relationships? It seems daunting, but at the end of the day, people buy people, not things, right? I mean, we buy the sweaters, we buy that, but if you're a social marketer, people are going to, buy you and what you promise them. So I think intention as we head into the year is a powerful word for us to go back to and revisit.
Well, for years I've told clients that you should have intention around everything you post on social media. Like if you're going to post an inspirational quote, okay, what do you want from that? Is it engagement? What's the goal for that piece of content? If you are posting your opt-in, obviously you're wanting people to opt into it. Most of the time I see people like, oh, get my freebie. People aren't interested in your freebie. They're not. They're interested in the transformation that your freebie gives them. Yes. So you talk about that you talk about, and then they go check it out. And if they want it, they'll grab it, right? Instead of just saying, hey, I want you to, get my freebie. Always lead with the transformation that you affect for people, because that's what they care about. They don't, they don't
care about the vehicle. They don't care about the how. They want to just know.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So good. You came out with a best-selling book. It was pretty much overnight. It was, will the real you please stand up? And I just think of Eminem, like, please stand up, show up, be authentic, and prosper in social media. Tell us about that book. And I think that it's a really powerful conversation to have, especially in this space right now where we all feel it's noisy. Everyone's online. You can grow your business in incredible ways. And yet the average woman I know has the thought of, who am I? Everyone else is already saying this. How am I saying it different? Can we talk about that, Kim? Because I think it's a really powerful conversation.
One of the things that I have seen over the time that I've been on social media, and something I actually struggled with when I first started, was finding my voice and being okay with understanding that it didn't matter if it wasn't perfect. And there's been a lot of, in this past year in particular, in this era of, political correctness or whatever you want to call it, I find that I've reverted a little bit, out of fear for saying the wrong thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But when I first started, I struggled with, well, what do I say? Like, and so many people will say that to me, like,
sure.
Well, what would you say if you were just standing in front of somebody? And I picture, somebody that I feel like I can help when I want to talk in the social space.
Okay, wait. We have to go back to that though, Kim, because that's really important. You have to picture the person you're talking to. Right. I always tell people there's one person on the other side of that lens. There's one person
Yes.
reading your post at a time. Right. So what would you say to your friend, to your client? And I think that is a game changer when that tone shifts, because it's not, hey, everyone, it's you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you start to self-select. Is it me? Right. Or is it someone else? So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Keep going. Didn't mean to
And
interrupt.
one thing that helped me and it might help others is I named my person, and I actually I clipped out of a magazine what I thought she would look like,
Mm,
and I put it on my on my computer on the side, and like when I wrote emails, I wrote my email for Beatrice.
yes.
And that was what I named her. You can name yours, whatever, obviously. But I think it's important to be talking to that one person instead of saying y'all, which I do quite a bit, but it lumps everybody in together versus people. Because there are people on the other side of those email addresses, using their first name and addressing them personally. But anyway, going back to the question, which was about the authenticity, that was what I found that most everybody that I worked with struggled with. It's like, what do I say? How do I show up? And when I decided to write the book, I did it because of my own struggles, and then looking at the landscape of who was successful in the social media space. It was anybody. I mean, if you look around at who's successful and doing great things in social media, all of those people are showing up authentically, and they are just talking
So
from
true.
their own. I mean, they showcase their personality. They don't worry about how they show up. They just show up. And if we get so wrapped up in like the perfection of what we think we need to do in the social space, which is one of the reasons that social has got a little bit of a bad rap, because we have to do the right filter.
It's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Seriously,
Yes, it's a lot.
like
Yeah.
like my house isn't clean, or
Right.
my or my house is uber clean, or my dogs are perfect, or my husband is perfect, or my kids are perfect, and
Yeah. And there's
anything
just
outside
no
of that
such
perfection,
thing. Yeah.
you just can't share it.
Right.
Like, when that is just not realistic. So the authenticity piece, I know it's an overused word, but just be yourself. Like, and it's okay to be yourself. But
Actually, I don't think there's
it's
anything
real.
more important than that. I think that the more
Absolutely.
you embrace who you really are, I mean, you think about the Brene Browns, you think about, I mean, I can think of so many thought leaders right now and influencers in this space. And the people that come to mind, it's like the more transparent and authentic they are, it seems the quicker their brand grows. And it's like messy hair days, walking around in my skivvies with cellulite. Like it doesn't matter. Like I'm just going to be me, and you like it or you don't. And you're unapologetic about it. But Kim, really think about that. Like if you think about the space, yes, there's the perfect curated models and everything's filtered, but the people that are really driving the bus, they are transparent and they're the furthest thing from perfect.
Yes. So I was just on Clubhouse earlier. I'll admit it. And one of the conversations that I overheard was Amy Porterfield, which some may know her. She was talking about when her business really took off. I mean, like exploded. And it was an 8-minute podcast, like a pop-up. She called it a pop-up podcast that she did on the fly. And she was really reluctant to release it, but she was talking about the fact that everybody told her she needed to embrace video more. And she was reluctant to do that. And she talked about why. And it was because she was just super concerned and reluctant to embrace it because of the way she looked. She had always been fearful of judgment when it come to her weight. But when she went put it out there into the world and let people see that side of her, and the concern. And, she always thought, well, people wouldn't care about that because, they only come to her because she had knowledge around
Right.
this, what she
Right.
showed up, her expertise. But when she was vulnerable and really let people see, something that a lot of us can relate to, boy, that,
It
like
all
she said,
changed.
that was the moment where she saw a point in her business that was, it just took her to a whole nother level. And I think that's a really
Yeah.
interesting thing for us to understand is, even, and especially in the social space where everybody tries to pretend to be like perfect, and we're just not. There's nobody out there that's perfect. So will the real you please stand up?
Will the real you please stand up? I really appreciate that. And I think that there is someone listening right now that needs to hear that more than water, more than drinking water today. Like they need to hear like how important it is for them to show up. And the more I think you share your, insecurities, your stresses, what overwhelms you, it reminds me of Oprah. And I remember when she was going through, she was a talk show host, and then before you know it, she was like the thing, like the sensation. And it was a very similar thing where she, shared about her childhood trauma, her weight, and she got all of America, right? Like going with Bob Green and everyone, is working out together. And I felt like she went from, kind of a talking head to a global figure that the real person could relate to. And a great example, Amy Porterfield, the same. And I think there's so many other people we can think of, Gwendolyn, that when you think of who they are, it's not what they do. You don't buy what they do. You buy why they do it. You buy them, and that relatability I think is super important. So thank you for that. So Kim, question for you. When it comes to your month, you're on social a lot. You're building your YouTube channel. I mean, you're a top end of influencer in the social media space. How do you create your plan for the month? What do you do?
Well, everything flows from my blog, usually. So, and the promotional things that we have on the calendar, and we do it, not from a yearly perspective, but we do it quarterly, because in the social space things change rapidly, and even within a quarter, we sometimes find that we have to replace ideas and concepts that
Got to
we
be
have laid
adaptable.
out.
Yeah.
You just got to be adaptable.
Yep.
But a lot of times, even my live shows will be a summation or same type of content that I'm sharing on my blog, or I will take an idea that I have for the blog and I will talk it on a live stream, and then we'll turn it into a blog. So we're very intentional with the content, so that I can leverage one block at a time and then repurpose that content. So I'll just give you a quick example. If I want to give, 5 ways to do Y, right? Then I will sometimes go live. I will share those tips or strategies or whatever it is. We'll immediately take that content, transcribe it, and my content writer will actually turn it into more of a blog format, not just, a transcript. So
Right.
she'll take the
Right.
content, she'll turn it into a blog format, but we'll also repurpose the video, the whole video. We'll pull snippets out of it for IGTV. One thing I'm really intentional about is breaking down the talking points, is what I call them. So if there's 5 ways, I will try to be very intentional with positioning those 5 things so we can snip those 5 ideas or
Yes.
5 tips,
We do
so
the
that you
same
can use
thing. You
those.
could use those in social.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. So use them on IGTV and other places. So one block of time can create, upwards to 200 pieces of content. And now,
Wait. One block of time can create 200 blocks of content. Did you hear that? It's
yes,
not about doing more. It's about doing a thing and using and repurposing that content. Love it.
yes, yes. So, and one of the things that's super awesome about live video is, the fact that, and video across the board, honestly, because people have that touch point with you. Like they know in a hot minute if they like you, or at least they're going to stick around long enough to listen to anything you have to say.
Right.
So, one of the things that, and this might for those of you who might be a little bit older, like, reached the age of 40 and my arms were no longer long enough. So I had to start wearing my peepers. But those have been a real big part of my brand. Normally I wear a pair of red glasses. I've got my purple
I know
ones
I was
on today.
expecting those, but I like what you're
Yeah.
wearing today. Yes.
Yeah. So, but things like that can become a part of your brand and people recognize those things. And it's interesting too, though, just from the concept of being intentional with your time. It goes back, I use the term intention a lot
Mhm.
because we don't have time for all this stuff, y'all. I mean,
It's
you
true.
can't do all of it.
Yeah.
So, using one block of time, going live or creating a piece of video content, whether you go live with it or not, but leveraging that to have transcribe it. I mean, technically the text could be turned into tweets, like
Yeah.
straight up tweets on Twitter, or, copy for your
Graphics, memes.
social,
Yeah.
graphics. Yeah. I mean, seriously, if it's good stuff, I have what I call a full play, like, just it was so good, do the whole shebang, everything we can possibly do to create content. The half play is sometimes you create something that's okay but it's not awesome, and then sometimes I say don't bother because sometimes we're just not on. So
Yeah.
I'm like, don't do anything with that. It wasn't good enough to do anything with. But I think the intention part of it's the key. If you go into a video and say, okay, I'm going to share 5 things, then those 5 things can be split into so many opportunities. And the nice thing about this, besides the fact that now you have a lot of content that you can repurpose, is that your messaging is yours. I see so
Right.
many people sharing other people's content or
Yeah.
other people's quotes or whatever, when we all have zingers, we all say things that are value based. Share your own stuff.
Yes.
Like,
Share your own stuff.
yes, build your
Good.
own
Say,
expertise.
crown yourself an expert. Put it on you
Yeah,
today and say, I am worthy. I just shared something really good. I'm going to put it
you're
out there.
you're a content queen. You are
That's
a
right.
quote queen. You are, you know,
Hey, Kim, how often do you go live?
I go live at least once a week. I
Yes.
have my Marketing That Grows Your Business show on Mondays. Normally, I go live on Thursdays as well because I do a Tools Thursday, because I love great tools and I love
Yes. Don't we
sharing
all? Yeah.
great tools. So normally I do at least those 2 days. Some days, like last week, I was doing some promotion around my list building course. So I was going live. I think I went live every day last week. So it just depends on what's going on,
Mhm.
as to how often
But
I will
minimum
go
once a
live.
week. You got to go
Minimum,
live at least once a week.
yes, minimum. And if you are, I tell people this, and I don't mean it in the context of you have to do this, but it's just a smart move. Live shows are more intentional. Again, that intention word, because you set a time and a day, and you show up routinely on that time and day. So people get used to seeing
Yeah.
you and connecting with you in
Consistency.
that time.
Yeah.
So that, and that can be monetized. It's just like a podcast. You can get, uh, show sponsors and,
Ad
highlight other.
placement. You get, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can do so many
Product
things with a
placement.
live show. And, with notwithstanding all the repurposing value, but the other side of it is the monetization side of it too.
Yeah, I think that is a really important thing as we're moving into the new year. And again, kind of going back to the noise and everyone's online. It's like when people know that you're on at a certain time and they can expect it, then you create like loyal followers and people that look forward to your show. And so if you will commit to going live once a week, pick the time, pick the date, make a title for it, make it a show. I was listening to a podcast the other day and it's so true. Like IGTV, YouTube, like they're all our own Netflix series. We all have our own shows, but the lack of
Yeah.
consistency is why most people, don't build their following. It's not lack of talent or lack of knowledge. It's just they're not consistent and they give up way before. I think that the misnomer is you show up and you go live every day and your followers and money is just going to be pouring in from the heavens. And so, Kim, what advice and then we'll wrap up with this. What advice do you have for people that really like want to move the dial on social? Um, and again, kind of go back to, where do I start? You know?
Yes, such a great question. The one thing that has had the most impact on my business in the social media space is live video, bar none. There is nothing else has had that much impact outside of live video. And, as an entrepreneur, many of us are here for impact. And the money is great. We're trying to build a business that generates revenue for us and, makes a difference in for our families. But we're also about how we help, how we show up. And, whether it's a book or the opportunity to build your own stage. I want to talk about this real quick because I think this is super important. Clubhouse is kind of one of those opportunities. They're calling it a stage, and I think live video is that too, where you are building your own stage. Like if you have a show, you invite people onto your stage to speak. You have a guest, in other words. You can monetize your stage. So if you think about it in the context of, leveraging your time smartly in the social space, and then creating a revenue stream with it, creating a content, everything can flow from your live show or your stage if you approach it with intention and a plan and a strategy. So if I was to recommend anything, I would recommend a live show. If you're just starting out and you're like, well, what if I show up and nobody shows up with me? It doesn't matter. Okay.
They'll come. Be consistent.
They'll come.
Yeah.
And it's not really about how many people are watching you in that moment, because you're creating a content engine in that moment.
Yes.
Because all that content you're creating in that moment is also going to be shared in other places, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to get started, and then people will start to listen, and your stage and your audience. So when you go to speak on somebody's stage, you don't know that everybody in that audience is your person. Right? You've spoken events before, Keri, where
many
they're a captive audience, right? Which is good, but is every one of them there because you excel at video and they're wanting that from you? They want to know. You go and you speak, and maybe you have an opportunity to sell into that community, and there'll be a percentage of those people who want what you have, but not everybody wants what you have.
Right.
Versus you building your own stage and people showing up because they want what you have. So your audience is pure.
Yeah.
It is your people. It's your person, versus,
trying to fish out who in the audience is your person. That is so valuable. Yes.
Yes. So, build your stage, girl. You have got a powerful message and an impact to make. Just do it intentionally.
Yes. And talking about stages, Kim Garst, shall we tell them? Shall we share the announcement?
Let's do it. Yes.
You are joining the Brilliant stage this year. I am so super excited. I am very picky with the women. I should say selective with the women that I bring on. Brilliant is a incredible, intimate event that really teaches women entrepreneurs how to grow and scale a 7 and 8 figure business from doing something that's meaningful, something that inspires them, something that fills their soul. And Kim, you're going to be talking about social media and how to grow and scale your business. I'm excited and honored to have you. We'll put a link here in the show notes. I'll tell you what, you want to see what Keri is like at Christmas, come to Brilliant. It is really such a magical 2.5 days, and it's going to be amazing. And Kim's going to be bringing lots more goodies.
Yes. Looking forward to it for sure. Yes.
So Kim, what does inspired living mean to you?
It means being able to do what you want when you want it, on one hand. And it means being able to show up and be of value to people who need you when they need you. I'm very passionate about, because my journey was hard. When I first started, we talked about that on the front side. It took me 5 years to make my first $60. that was hard. Like
Yeah.
in retrospect, I'm like, why did I give up?
I was just going to ask that, but you kept going. You have to share that story
Yes,
at Brilliant. Okay. I want to deep
yes,
dive into that.
yeah. It's I'm very passionate about shortening people's learning curves and taking the complex and making it simple for people, or
Yeah.
taking things that I know have worked in my business and sharing what that looked like, breaking it down. So I like showing up. I like being of a service to my people.
Yeah. And you are that. And it is why I'm so excited to have you at Brilliant and why I invited you to be on this podcast, not just because of your knowledge, but definitely because of your heart as well. So, Kim, thank you for sharing your genius with us today. And again, come and be a part of Brilliant this year. You can go to thebrilliantevent.com. And Kim, if people want to connect with you, find out more about what you do, how do they do that?
You can check me out on the Google machine. I am Googleable.
Googleable.
Shoo, that did not want to come out. That word did not want to come out. But kimgarst.com /blog. Lots of great information there. My Marketing That Grows Your Business show every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on my pretty much all the socials. So yeah, just follow wherever it meets your best need, wherever you hang out, and I'd love to connect with you.
Yeah, and you have so many wonderful resources. I mean, you just give so much great content, tools, tips, resources. You never hold back, and it's one of the things I love about you. You're not like, "Hey, you have to buy it all the time." It's like, "Here, let me just share with you my knowledge." And by the way, if you want to know more, then you can pay for it, right? but you're very, very
Yeah.
generous, and I just love that about you. Thank you, Kim, for being with me today, and I look
It's been
forward to talking
lovely.
to you
Enjoyed
again
it.
soon. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. You've just heard another uplifting episode of Inspired Living with Keri Murphy, the podcast. I hope you loved it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And if you'd like to know more about Inspired Living or to get your hands on many of our awesome free resources, such as the Be Studio Ready Guide, simply visit us at inspiredliving.tv /podcast. Remember, your vision is your destiny, and we're here to help you bring it to life. Join me again next week for another extraordinary episode.